Dark openings may very well be one of the generally interesting and secretive peculiarities in the universe. They are gigantic monsters regarding power, however, at a similar time, for all intents and purposes imperceptible to us. A dark opening weighing maybe 2 to 4 multiple times the mass of the Sun is a perfect representation. As a result of the exploration that was placed into them over the last years, we've gone from knowing literally nothing about them to getting to find out increasingly more very close. What's more, individual while things have simply gotten more insane, Makaku recently declared that we at long last got to check what's inside a dark opening. This new data carries light to the subtleties the universe of science could have missed from the beginning. Join us as we dig further into dark openings and divulge what's inside. Space is enormous and terrible. Before we dive into the subtleties of what Makaku found, we need to discuss the firsts. Despite the fact that the majority of us have some thought of what dark openings are, there are still a few holes in the right data. You see, in 1916, Albert Einstein distributed his hypothesis of general relativity, which anticipated the presence of dark openings. Around then, the idea of dark openings was simply hypothetical. It required an additional 50 years for the logical community to track down proof that dark openings really exist. This occurred in the 1960s when they were contemplating the Cygnus heavenly body and saw a strangely dazzling blue star discharging X-beams. This star was definitely not a stale item, yet was circling around a Goliath dark something. Upon additional examination, it was observed that the X-beams weren't simply moving around all alone, yet were being sucked into the dark thing they were circling. In this manner, the name dark opening. This revelation was huge on the grounds that it gave evidence that dark openings in reality exist and that they were not simply an invention of Albert Einstein's wild creative mind. While that was incredible, it moreover actually intended that there was this unbelievable element in space that we earnestly had to be aware more about. Analysts overall around the world got to work. This dark opening was named Cygnus X1, and it is situated in the star grouping Cygnus, around 6,000 light-years from Earth. It was no small disclosure. It's multiple times more brilliant than the Sun and unquestionably thick, which makes it have areas of strength for a pull. The gravitational force is major areas of strength for so that not even light can get away from it. This is the reason it is known as a dark opening. The idea of a dark opening is both interesting, and it is to frighten area of room where gravity is so solid that nothing, not even light, would be able to evade. Whatever gets excessively near a dark opening won't be maneuvered into it ever to be seen again. However, that part of peril makes it significantly more important to learn all that there is to be aware of them. Was this it? Or were we just starting? The response turned out to be the last option. After the disclosure of Cygnus X1, researchers began to look for other dark openings. They found that there might be near more than 100 million dark openings in the smooth way alone, but since they are so extraordinarily difficult to distinguish, we still try not to have an accurate number. By and large, from the vibes of it, there are a few million dark openings in the smooth way in our very system, which is what makes them significantly more vital to study. So we should separate it. The fundamental concern with dark openings is continuously going to be gravity. Their gravitational draw is so extraordinary that anything that enters it packs down cosmically until it turns into a peculiarity. In more straightforward terms, dark openings resemble astronomical vacuum cleaners that suck everything in. One of the most alarming parts about the examination that has gone into dark openings is the reality that if somebody somehow managed to fall into one, they would cut to the chase that they become a solitary line. This cycle would happen gradually, and the individual would pass on before the last structure as a matter of fact sets in. So we should simply say that nobody ought to step into one, except for they're everywhere. So might we at any point truly be in peril? Regardless of the way that the nearest dark opening to Earth is 500 to 1,000 light-years away, it's actually close enough to raise questions and worries. In 2021, researchers had the option to deliver the first clear photo of a dark opening, explicitly the M87 dark opening. This dark opening was captured a few evenings in succession, and with each photo, the specialists gathered to an ever-increasing extent proof about it. They needed to join the individual photographs together to make something that filled every one of the holes. This way, they had the option to sort out that there are 3 layers to a dark opening. It's not only one single expanding opening of nothingness, as many individuals accept. Things are much more confounded than that. To try and get to the nothingness part of a dark opening, you need to make it through the initial 2 layers. The first layer is known as the occasion skyline, which is the final turning point. Once you pass the occasion skyline, there's no turning back, and you will be sucked into the dark opening. It just deteriorates from that point on out. The subsequent layer is the photon circle, which is the area where light circles the dark opening. Any light that enters this district will be caught and cannot get away from the dark opening's gravitational draw. At last, we come to the third layer, which is the peculiarity. This is where all that enters the dark opening gets compacted down cosmically until it turns into a peculiarity. The peculiarity is a point in spacetime where the laws of material science, as we probably are aware them, separate, and we just can't foresee what occurs next. At the peculiarity, the thickness is boundless, and the laws of material science, as we probably are aware them, fail to exist. Now, what makes all of this boundlessly more terrible is the way that each and every dark opening you study will be totally unique in relation to the last certain. They in all actuality will quite often follow a similar 3-layer idea. However, the manner in which they capability could be immeasurably unique. Now, if this were anything more, all we really want to do is jump back on those telescopes and just concentrate on the central issue exhaustively. Yet, with dark openings, you can't actually do that. Researchers can concentrate on dark openings by implication by noticing the radiation they emanate and the gas and residue that encompasses them. Sending a test like the Explorer inside a dark opening isn't conceivable because anything that enters the occasion skyline is pulled towards the peculiarity, where it is packed to an endlessly little point. So you can't precisely squander billions of dollars just to get an impression each time, in light of the fact that the second the test draws near enough, it'll simply squash into nothingness. As a result of that obvious issue, researchers are left with no choice except for to study these objects in a 2-layered manner, even though they are 3-layered peculiarities in actuality. To make matters significantly seriously testing, there are likewise the 2 issues of each and every dark opening being novel and the laws of material science, as we realize them, separating when we attempt to investigate within. This implies that the customary strategies for logical request don't actually apply to the review of dark openings. That doesn't intend that the analysts haven't been occupied. There are bunches of various speculations and clarifications of dark openings, and with every one, things get to an ever-increasing extent intriguing. One of the most convincing speculations about the development of dark openings is that they are made from falling stars. When a star depletes all its fuel, it can never again create enough energy to neutralize the power of gravity that is continually pulling inward. Thus, the star begins to break down in on itself, decreasing and denser. Assuming the star is adequately huge, this interaction can go on until it turns into a peculiarity. To comprehend the nature of dark openings top to bottom, NASA researchers directed their concentration toward the center of the system M87. Cosmologists noticed a really strong whirlpool of very hot hydrogen gas that was turning at an astounding pace of 1.2 million miles per hour. The sheer power of the turning circle of gas ought to have caused it to fly separated in all viciously headings. However, it didn't. Researchers reasoned that there must be an epic mass assembled at the focal point of the world to keep this from occurring. This enormous item weighed as much as 2 to 3 billion suns and must be a dark opening. But that is not by any means the only hypothesis regarding dark openings. In 1963, the New Zealand mathematician Royer utilized Einstein's conditions of gravity to give the best portrayal of a turning dark opening. They showed that a turning dark opening wouldn't fall into a point, as recently suspected, but into a ring of fire or a flimsy plate. The circle would turn so quickly that radiating powers would keep it from falling. This turning circle of issue is known as the aerosphere, and it is the district encompassing the dark opening where the laws of physical science begin to separate. However, the most charming element of the Coureur arrangement was that it anticipated the presence of an Einstein-Rosen scaffold, otherwise called a wormhole. This hypothetical section through spacetime could associate 2 separate areas of the universe or even 2 equal universes. The thought is that assuming one were to fall into a dark opening, rather than being squashed to blankness, one would be sucked down a passage through the ring of chute and shot out a white opening in an equal universe. Scientists have hypothesized that wormholes are feasible, and yet we have not had the option to track down any of them. One conceivable justification for this is that they are super flimsy and evaporate before we even get an opportunity to see them. That doesn't prevent scientists from seeking after these ideas since, all things considered, there are so many things still unclear about dark openings. This inquiry has prompted speculation that dark openings could be linked to the beginning of the universe, which was similarly stirred up in the cosmic explosion theory. Nonetheless, regardless of the wide extent of work being done on dark openings, we are just starting to comprehend them. What's more, with every new disclosure, the expectation is that we'll be one stage nearer to discovering precisely what's going on with dark openings and what we can do about them.